We just getting started, baby. Did anybody see what Mr. Wardell Steph Curry did to the Portland Trailblazers? They were nobodies. They beat the Giants. Trash. They beat the Broncos. Trash. If you ever watched Dragon Ball Z, my man's was Super Saiyan. I couldn't wear this until we actually caught a dub. And he did all of this damage in 36 minutes. Let that sink in. They beat the Eagles, trash. The Cowboys, trash. The Bengals, trash. The Jaguars, trash. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here on Rob's 2 Cents. My good people, my good people. Hello, world. I'd like to welcome you guys back to the show that's hot with your boy, Rob Scott. This is Rob's 2 Cents. What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody doing good. Hope everybody enjoying their weekend and getting a great start to the week, being productive, setting goals, achieving your dreams. How's everybody doing? How you all feeling? Glad you guys came back to another edition of Rob's 2 Cents. Got a lot to talk about. Got some moves being made in the NFL. We're going to talk about some inconsistent teams. Going to talk about a team that's been doing their thing. That's back on the come up. Got a lot to discuss on this show. So grab your popcorn, sit down, chillax, and tune in to the hottest sports conversation in the nation. This is Rob's 2 Cents. And I got to start off by talking about a team who people had high hopes for, even though they lost a couple key pieces to their franchise. Nobody saw this decline coming. And we have to start off with the Toronto Raptors, man. We got to start off in the 6 because Toronto has been on a serious decline since winning the NBA championship back in 2019. I know losing Kawhi, when they formed the Clippers back in the 2019-2020 season, and then losing Serge Ibaka this year also to the Clippers, I know that doesn't help. However, with the rise of, all-star Pascal Siakam, earning an all-star selection last season, Fred VanVleet getting his big payday this year, it was some high hopes for the Raptors. We thought the Raptors would be a formidable team in the Eastern Conference. However, that has not been the case, and a lot of it has been due to injury, due to, COVID putting a serious damper on the Raptors season. And because right now the Raptors are out of playoff contention. They're currently sitting in 11th place with a record of 17-22. Just been on a real decline this season. 3-7 in their last 10 games and currently on a 5-game losing streak. So, they've been making these games competitive, but, being shorthanded due to, health and safety protocols, it's been a real issue for the Raptors. And right now, they've fallen short in their recent games, being on a 5-game losing streak. And I understand, losing players to injury, losing players to COVID, but you know how the old adage goes, it's next man up. And, most of their, players on their roster has been champions, got some new guys there. But for the most part, they've been able to keep their core. But, I will give the Raptors this, without the last 5 games, in their past 6 games, they've been without some key pieces, and we're gonna talk about it right now. First up in this 5-game stretch, they went against the Detroit Pistons, and the Pistons were able to, defeat them with the final score being 129-105. Pistons were able to end their 3-game losing streak against a very short-handed Raptors team because they are without Pascal Siakam, they are without Fred VanVleet, and they are without OG Anunoby, and even their head coach Nick Nurse is out due to these COVID protocols. So the Raptors definitely showed signs of being a depleted team, with their bench being outscored by the Pistons bench 56-29. So that's definitely showing that there's a lack of depth there because now you have to take players and plug them into the starting lineup. Players that would normally be coming off your bench, like a Norman Powell. But Norman Powell, he had a huge game. He's been a bright spot for the Raptors. Been a person that's trying to keep a positive mindset for this team. He had 36 points that game. Now, next up, they'll go against the Boston Celtics, as the Raptors would lose in a very competitive game, 132 to 135. The Raptors would pretty much lead for the first, for most of this game. But then, Jason Tatum, he'll go crazy. They pretty much led up until the third quarter, up until the second half. Jason Tatum would lead the Celtics, come back by scoring 27 points, grabbing 12 rebounds. The Raptors will make 21 threes and be led in scoring by Chris Boucher. Yes, I know how to say that name because of the water boy, Adam Boucher. But now we look at, I said Adam Boucher, Bobby Boucher. My bad, y'all. Don't correct me. The Raptors would then face the Atlanta Hawks, a team who also Atlanta, they've been on an up and down season as well. As you know, they fired their head coach, Coach Pierce. And right now they're starting to get some things together. But again, the Atlanta Hawks have been a very underwhelming team, very underachieving. Right now, out of playoff contention in the Eastern Conference, where with players like Trae Young there, players like Danilo Gallinari, again, you would have thought they would have been a little bit more competitive in the East. However, this game they would win, as they would defeat the Toronto Raptors 121 to 120. And this was a very close game. Actually, it took the prayer shot of a three from Tony Snell at the buzzer to break the Raptors' heart. And the funny, ironic thing about that is Tony Snell only had 6 points in that game. So the three that he hit it when it counted. And, hey, a bucket is a bucket, and he called game. Trae Young from the Hawks will also just be too much for the Raptors. He went for 37, and we know Trae has the ability to go nuclear. So when he gets hot and when he gets it going, Trae Young is definitely a hard player to stop once as I like to say, as he catches the Holy Ghost and starts to get crazy. But Norman Powell and Chris Boucher from the Toronto Raptors, they would step up, combining for 60 points for this team. But again, it was just too much of Trae Young, and then that miracle of a three hit by Tony Snell. Then the Raptors will fall to the exciting Charlotte Hornets, 114 to 104. Man, LaMelo Ball went crazy this game, and you guys know how I feel about LaMelo. You looking at your next NBA Rookie of the Year, and he would go crazy this game. He had 23 points. He made 6 3-pointers. He shot 64% from the field and 67% from the three-point line. That boy cold. The Hornets as a team would connect on 21 3-pointers. The Hornets came out the gate hot, as they would outscore the Toronto Raptors 44 to 24 in the first quarter and would not look back. It was just too much for Toronto to catch up, and the Hornets went home with that W. Then on Sunday, this past Sunday, the Raptors will fall to my Chicago Bulls 118 to 95 behind a big game from the rookie Patrick Williams. Now, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to apologize. I am one to admit when I'm wrong, or I'm one to admit when I spoke out of turn. And I judge Patrick Williams. He is a very nice player. I know I was a little disappointed because he wasn't even a starter in college. So, that just, it was just a combination of that and the Bulls having such a high draft pick. I'm like, this guy, no offense to Patrick Williams, but I'm going to say this again. You do not waste a 4th pick on a person that wasn't even a starter on his team, not in the NBA draft. However, Patrick Williams has had a pretty solid year, and he looks like he's going to be a pretty decent player for the Chicago Bulls. He scored his career high with 23 points. Norman Powell was scored 32, but the Raptors just couldn't get a good rhythm in that second half. Plus, their bench was outscored 47 to 29. Kyle Lowry also was ejected in the final minutes of the game, getting into it with the referees. And Right now, the Raptors are just all out of sorts. Hopefully, as they start to get some of their starters back, get some of their key players back, especially players like, they're missing three great players on that team right now, and Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby and Fred VanVleet. So, hopefully as they get their starters back, they can get back on track, hopefully get back into that playoff picture. However, that's not their only problem, because we don't know the fate of Kyle Lowry. We don't know if he's going to be traded. There's been a lot of rumors going around the league saying that he's on the chopping block, saying that the Toronto Raptors are looking to deal him off. And dare I say, since they gave Kawhi to the Clippers, since they gave Ibaka to the Clippers, if I was the Clippers, I would be looking to try to make a deal with this Toronto Raptors team, because the Clippers have some serious point guard issues. You'll hear a little bit later on what the New Orleans Pelicans did to them. Oh, my God. And this is supposed to be one of the best defensive teams ever assembled, but that was not the case against the New Orleans Pelicans. But yeah, once the Raptors figure out what they want to do, if they're going to keep Kyle Lowry, they're going to trade Kyle Lowry, they have until March 25th to make this happen, which will be the end of the trade deadline. So we're going to be keeping our eyes on the Raptors, keep our eyes on Kyle Lowry to see if Toronto will indeed still be his destination by the end of the season. And I know Toronto's been up and down, but there was another team that was up and down at the beginning of the season, but they're beginning to catch fire. And it's ironically that their name is the Miami Heat, because the Miami Heat have quietly gotten their act together. Like Stella, the Miami Heat have finally got their groove back, because they have crept back up to the upper half of the Eastern Conference, currently sitting in fourth place in the East with a record of 21-18. They're finally over 500. I was worried about the Heat for the while, because early in the season they were struggling, and they were struggling bad. They were very inconsistent. They had guys in and out of the lineup. They couldn't catch a break. They couldn't get to a winning record to at least get to 500. But their luck has been changing, and it's due to a certain player making his return back into the lineup. We're going to be talking about this a little later in this segment. But because they were fresh off a finals appearance last year. Nobody expected the Heat to make it to the NBA Finals. And then since they did, they would lose eventually 6 games to the Los Angeles Lakers, but they made it competitive. And the Heat had made a statement in that finals to let people know that they were serious and that they deserved to be there. And, they kind of wanted to come into this season and show people that wasn't an aberration, that wasn't just a miracle that happened, that this team is for real and that these teams are professionals. And nobody saw that coming last year. And this year, people saw them coming. So you can tell that defenses, coaches wrote great defensive schemes to limit what the Heat do best, and that's shoot threes and drive to the bucket. However, this season, the Heat are out to prove that they are the real deal. And it looks like the Miami Heat means business, because right now they're 9-1 in their last 10 games, and they're currently on a 4-game winning streak. We got to look at the 5 games. You know how we do it on Rise 2 Cents. I'm going to put everything into perspective for you. Let's go right in. So they would lose to the Atlanta Hawks. Seems like the Atlanta Hawks have been beating some pretty good teams, right? But they would lose to the Atlanta Hawks 94-80, as Trae Young would lead the Hawks by scoring 13 straight points in the fourth and 18 points total in the game. Jimmy Butler didn't play this game due to this was actually his second game out. He was dealing with some knee inflammation. And to say that the Heat struggled offensively in this game would be an understatement. As a team, they would shoot 37% from the field and 27% from the three-point line. Eesh, that wasn't good. However, against the Pelicans, against them New Orleans Pelicans, the Heat would defeat them 103-93. They would be led by Kelly Olynyk, who almost have a triple-double by scoring 18 points with 7 assists and 10 rebounds, and a return in Jimmy Butler, and the Heat was definitely grateful to have him back in the lineup. He had 29 points with 9 assists, just another day at the office for Jimmy. And the Heat will hold the Pelicans to 39% shooting from the field, because defense is their calling card. Then the Heat will beat the Orlando Magic in the battle for Florida 111 to 103. Jimmy Butler will once again lead the charge, scoring 27 points, including 11 assists, including 8 rebounds, including 3 steals, including 1 block. The defense of the Miami Heat held the Orlando Magic to 8 of 28 from the field in the fourth quarter. This game will get the Heat over 500 for the first time this season. Then the Heat would defeat my Chicago Bulls 101 to 90 as the Heat would be led by Jimmy Butler, who had 28 points, 8 assists, 4 steals. Jimmy and 1 block. Jimmy was on the road that game. Goran Dragic was also have a big game, scoring 25 points with 5 assists and 7 rebounds, including the fourth quarter, including scoring 20 points in the fourth quarter. He scored 20 of his 25 points in the money time, in clutch time. Man, Goran had a game that game. And then the Heat defensive presence will once again show up as they held the Bulls to 37% shooting from the field. Then, once again, the Heat will beat the Orlando Magic 102 to 97. Jimmy Butler will once again steal the show and show why he is so important to this team, scoring 29 points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, and 1 block. Jimmy will win the game with a game-winning steal and layup the same way he started that game. So if we look at what Miami has been doing correctly, it's been that they've been finally going to their calling card. They've been finally going to what gets them their bread and butter. And that's defense, ladies and gentlemen. The Heat are third in opponent points per game as a team, averaging 7.4 steals a game and 3.9 blocks per game. It looks as if the Heat is ready to make a little noise, and it seems like they are ready to party again in Miami. But I want to talk about a player who, let's just say this, has so much potential. My mentor once told me that there are 3 people in the room. There's the person that's the best at what they do. There's the person that's the worst at what they do. And then there's the person with the most potential. And this player right here, Zion Williamson, he is the player with the most potential. Because this is a question that has been posed since Zion first made headlines with his amazing athleticism back in high school. The 6'7", 284-pound beast has been lighting it up this year. He is averaging 25.5 points a game, but only 7 rebounds, which is low if we look at his size, mobility, and jumping ability. However, he was a first-time All-Star this season. And the question is posed, how good can Zion Williamson be? Although he has captivated the NBA fans with his ability to posterize his opponents, he has yet to reach his full potential when it comes to being a professional basketball player. At times, it looked like he doesn't put his all into the defensive side of the ball, often looking like a deer in headlights when playing defense. Now, I do like the fact that Coach Stan Van Gundy, let me be respectful, has put the ball more in Zion's hands, allowing him to sort of be the point forward for this team. And doing this allows Zion to use his underrated dribbling ability, which puts defenders on their heels because he has such a quick first step. Now, a lot of people who don't watch basketball closely or people who are just casual fans, you might not know that back in high school, Zion was a point guard. So Zion, he can, be some sort of a floor general, but primarily when the ball is in his hand, he's looking to score. And he's such a big guy that as he makes these moves, he puts you at his mercy because his first step, as I mentioned, is so quick. And you wouldn't expect that from a guy with his size. But not to mention that he has the uncanny ability to either finesse you or just outright bully you. And that's what he does because he just bullies people in the hole. I just remember one play in particular when they were going against the Utah Jazz, and he bullied Rudy Gobert. He made Gobert. And we're talking about a guy that's 7'2". What did I say Zion was? He's 6'7". And Rudy Gobert 7'1", 7'2". And Zion made him look like a little kid. Also, let's look at what they just did against the Clippers this past Sunday on primetime basketball on ABC. Zion had his way with the Clippers. I mean, what he end with 27 points off 13 or 18 shoot. I mean, he shot 81%. He is leading the league right now, like 61.9% in field goal percentage, which is the highest among active players in the NBA right now. Players that shot over 300 shots or more. He doesn't miss, but that's because he's taking very high percentage shots. It's layups or dunks with Zion, and that's where he needs to begin his evolution. Because what he wants to do is he needs to start to develop at least a 17-footer, because we know Father Time is going to catch up with people eventually. We know that athleticism he has today, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, after the mileage of being in the NBA, playing these long 82-game seasons, this year 72-game season, if you become one of those players that begin to make the postseason, which adds more games that you're playing in the playoffs, all-star games, Olympics. I mean, he's going to have a lot of mileage on him in the next 5 to 10 years. So you have to imagine that the boingings that we see him with now, the bounce that he has now, that's eventually going to go away. And he's going to have to rely on his wits and not so much his athleticism, because right now that's what I think Zion is out there playing with. He is playing with athleticism. He doesn't really understand the game as of yet, which you wouldn't expect him to. This is pretty much his rookie campaign to me. Because last year, he played 39 games. He didn't play a lot of games last year due to injury. So this year, he's really been making up for lost time. And he's going to get better as he goes, because there is no ceiling on how great Zion can get. But there's some things that he needs to focus on in order to evolve into the player that we think he's going to be. And again, that's going to be developing a 17-foot jumper. That's going to be becoming a better defender. Making the rotations on time. A lot of time I see him late as players begin to rotate, and times, like I said, it seems like he just puts his arm down. He lets people just score on him. He's so much looking for the fast break. He's so much looking for to get out on the run, that he forgets that, dude, you're probably, with your size and with your jumping ability, you should be easily averaging 10 rebounds. Easily. Even against the Clippers, he had such a great game, 27.5 assists, but he only had 2 rebounds. That is unacceptable from a guy that's 6'7", that can jump the way he can. You would expect him to average at least 2 blocks a game. He's not even averaging a 1 block consistently. So what he needs to do is develop a jumper. He needs to become better defensively. He also needs to be down there rebounding the ball. I agree with Shaq wholeheartedly. If you're a forward in this league, you're a center in this league, 2 to 5 rebounds not going to cut it. What Zion needs to do is go watch some tape on Charles Barkley. What he needs to do is watch tape on Zach Randolph, Zebo, and watch these guys who had a bigger body frame and how they were able to body people out of the lanes and just be there at the spot when that ball comes off the rim, whether it's offensively or defensively. He needs to become a better rebounder. And he needs to, step up his intelligence on the court. I mean, he's a pretty smart player. I think he does a lot of things off instincts, but as he, reaches out to these veterans and continues to train with his coaching staff, he will become a great NBA player. And like I said, there's no ceiling on Zion. From what I've seen from his small body of work in the NBA, it only took him 2 years, in my eyes, technically 1 year, to become an all-star. As I mentioned, he's leading the league in field goal percentage. He has the Pelicans right now in 11th place in the Western Conference, so they're not completely out of the playoff picture. He has been a breath of fresh air to New Orleans since they lost Anthony Davis to the Los Angeles Lakers. So Zion is gonna be a player that captivates the NBA audience for years to come. He's definitely a freak of nature. Again, he's built like Sean Kemp, can jump like LeBron, can handle the ball, and once he and great pick and roll player, by the way, too. Once he comes off that pick and roll with either BI or Alonzo, there's nothing you can really do. You're pretty much at his mercy because of the way he can split defenders or have defenders just bounce off his massive body frame. So Zion is definitely going to be a perennial all-star And hopefully, if they can get the right pieces around him, or those right pieces, grow up a little bit, because I believe New Orleans has a great young core. You might be looking at some future champions. Got a couple quick hitters before we end the show. Aaron Jones of the Green Bay Packers gets a 4-year extension with the Packers worth $48 million. We know last year he ran for 1,104 yards. He had 9 touchdowns, including 355 receiving yards for 2 receiving touchdowns. He had a great season last year, helping the Packers win the NFC North Division and getting to the NFL NFC Championship game, where they will lose 31-26 to the Super Bowl champs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. However, in that game, in the NFC Championship game, he only had 6 carries for 27 yards with 0 touchdowns in that game. I don't know why the Packers will go away from that run game. You can tell they definitely could have used him to kind of trick that defense a little bit. However, that was not the case, as they tried to strictly rely on Aaron Rodgers' arm, and that didn't work out so well. Also, major announcement here: Drew Brees officially announced his retirement after a very great 20-year career. As you know, he spent his first 5 with the San Diego Chargers. He had a terrible injury, and a lot of people didn't think he'll be able to come back from. However, he would spend his final 15 years and revitalize, with the New Orleans Saints. We read off a couple of accolades for Mr. Drew Brees. 13 Pro Bowl selections, 2-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year in 2008 and 2011, Walter Payton Man of the Year, first team All-Pro back in 2006, led the Who Dat movement by becoming the Super Bowl champion in 2009 and also being MVP of that Super Bowl. He also has the most career passing yards at 80,358 and the highest completion percentage at 67.7%. He also is second on the NFL all-time touchdown list at 571 total touchdowns, only second to the great Tom Brady. Drew Brees had a hell of a career. He was a person that a lot of people slept on due to his size. As you know, quarterbacks are typically taller men so that they can see over the line. But Drew Brees was sort of like a trendsetter for the guys on the short end of the stick. Being a short quarterback, being a quarterback that didn't have an amazing power in his throws. He wasn't a distance thrower. However, Drew Brees was very smart. He was very methodical, and he brought the best out of his receivers. And I know he will be missed in New Orleans for that team. He deserves everything that he has coming to him. I know there was some controversy and how he felt about people kneeling. Thought they were disrespecting the military and whatnot. I don't believe that Drew Brees is a racist person. I just believe that he didn't understand the movement at that time, in which he came out and rectified that, speaking up, garnishing the trust of his black teammates once again. And you can tell that they love Drew. He's a Christian man, a God-fearing man, and I'm very happy for Drew Brees. In my eyes, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's a champion, and he's broken all type of records. So congratulations to Drew Brees. Hope you relax, kick your feet up, and enjoy retirement because, brother, you've earned it. Thank you for your service in the NFL. Also, want to give a shout out to the Fighting Illini. Illinois won the Big Ten tournament, defeating Ohio State 91-88 in overtime. That boy Ayo Dosunmu has 16 points, and he's been a monster this year. Let's look at what he's been doing. He had 20.9 points on the season. He's averaging 20.9 points on the season, 6.2 rebounds, 5.4 assists, off 49.6% shooting. So he's almost shooting 50% from the field. The Fighting Illini hasn't won the Big Ten tournament since back in 2005, and we all remember how that happened. I definitely remember because that's when we had Darren Williams, Luther Head, Augustine, D. Brown, Powell. We had a squad over there with Illinois, and I believe they almost went undefeated. They lost to Ohio State. I know that broke the undefeated streak. I want to say that was back. Was that back when Greg Oden and Mike Conley was playing for them? I want to say. And then they would lose to North Carolina in the championship as they would win the Big Ten tournament, go on to the March Madness tournament, get all the way down to the last two, and they would fall short to Sean Mays and the North Carolina Tar Heels. I remember that game, man. Definitely was a heartbreaker, but it looks like the Illini are trying to rectify that and look to make some noise this year in the tournament. We're going to have to see. Also, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made a little bit more noise today as they will sign linebacker Shaq Barrett to a 4-year extension worth $72 million. As we know, Shaq Barrett stood up the most. I believe he had like 11 point something sacks on the season. However, in the postseason, in particular the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl, he would lead his team with 4 sacks. And then that's not all they did. They will also bring back Rob Gronkowski. The Gronk man said he only will play with Tom Brady, and you ask, sir, and you shall receive. He is back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, signing for 1 more year at $10 million. As we know, Gronk didn't have the best of years. I think he was still trying to get his legs under him. He began to come alive in the postseason, so to speak. But in that Super Bowl, Gronk turned back the hands of times. As we know, we'll get to see 2 of his famous Gronkowski spikes as he would score 2 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Also, as we move on to the world of boxing, we have just found out that a deal has been made to see Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. They have agreed to a 2-fight deal to unify the heavyweight championship. The locations have not yet been chosen or disclosed. So we're going to be keeping our eyes on that, waiting to see these 2 super fights. And pretty much their contract details that on their first fight, they'll split it right down the middle on a 50-50 split. But on that second fight, who's ever the winner is going to get the majority, as they'll do a 60-40 split. And the winner of the first fight will be able to get 60% of the proceeds from that fight. Definitely can't wait to see that. We haven't had a unified world heavyweight champion in some time now. So I'm definitely excited about that fight. Definitely also want to see if Deontay Wilder is going to jump back into that picture to try to regain at least his WBC championship back. I know that was a goal of his to become the first unified heavyweight champion of the world. However, we will have to wait and see after these 2 super fights with Tyson Fury going against Anthony Joshua. And last but not least, the boxing world lost probably one of the toughest men in the world. We lost Marvelous Marvin Hagler. As we know, Hagler was probably one of the grittier fighters. Everybody, from what I read, from interviews I watched about him, said he probably had one of the toughest chins in the sport of professional boxing. Hence the fact that he's only been knocked down technically once in his career, and even that is up for debate. As I was reading, it's been debated on whether or not they actually want to score that as a knockdown against Marvin Hagler. But he was an undisputed middleweight champion, meaning he owned all the titles. His reign went from 1980 to 1987. This means he won the WBA, WBC, IBF, and the Ring Middleweight Championship. He had classic battles with the like of Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, who actually, that was his last fight, actually, in his career, and that was such a controversial fight. A lot of people say Hagler won that fight. From the highlights I watched of that fight, they went to war. I believe Hagler won that fight. But Sugar Ray Leonard is a great in his own right, a legend. He was Floyd Mayweather before we knew about Mayweather. And then, of course, who can forget the battle against Thomas Hitman Hearns? I mean, this boxer is before my time. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything about the Marvelous Marvin Hagler. But I've seen that fight. And let me tell you guys, from the first round, there was blood. I mean, these guys went to war. They came out throwing bombs at each other. I believe Hagler got split open in the fight. Somebody, I think Tommy Hitman Hearn, broke his hand in the fight. I mean, these guys were just going at it. Hagler will win eventually with a TKO, knocking out Thomas Hitman Hearns. But man, let me tell you guys, man, that was a war, and I don't think we'll ever see a war like that in boxing again, because the referee will be stopping that fight. I mean, these guys went at it, and that fight is probably going down as a legendary fight just from the first round, because in today's boxing, you used to people coming out trying to feel for their opponent, try to get a rhythm on what they do. These two guys didn't do that. They came out, they say this ain't a boxing match. This a fight. And they came out fighting. Man, let me tell you guys, man, the boxing world definitely has lost a true legend. As we know, Mr. Hagler is an inductee into the International Boxing Hall of Fame and the World Boxing Hall of Fame. He was 66 years old at his time of passing. Oh, I want to definitely let his family know our thoughts and prayers are with him, are with them. And they definitely, the boxing world could definitely say they lost a champion. Continue to rest peacefully, Mr. Hagler. And we thank you for, all you did for the boxing community. And, he was even an actor out the league. He was living out his final years out there in Italy, enjoying, acting, calling the game, the boxing matches out there. So Mr. Hagler definitely lived a full life. And that's the end of my show, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you guys for sticking around. As you know, we always have fun. This has been a great time. Tune in on Saturday as I'll be coming out with a new episode of Rob's 2 Cents. I'm going to keep you guys in tune on the hottest sports conversation in the nation. And before I leave, I want to definitely tell my beautiful wife, I love you. And happy birthday to you, because she'll be celebrating her birthday Tuesday morning when you guys watching this. So happy birthday to my beautiful wife. I thank you for, continuously supporting me, being in my ear, keeping me on track when I get discouraged or I feel down or I feel like, I'm not good enough. You certainly let me know that I am. And, you deserve all the gifts and happy birthdays that you're going to get. Can't wait to spend time with you this weekend. I got some great things planned. And I just want you to know that I love you with all my heart. And I love you guys as well, man. I appreciate all the love and support that you guys continuously give me. Make sure you like this video, share this video, subscribe. Also, check your boy out if you don't have time to watch. Listen to your boy. I'm on iTunes and Spotify as well as Rob's 2 Cents. You see the backdrop? You see the backdrop? That's me. Yeah, Rob 2 Cents. That me. No, I'm sorry. I had a black youngster moment. But I appreciate you guys. Also, check me out on all social media platforms. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Rob's 2 Cents. Baby, this is the movement that's going to continue to move. I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great one. Enjoy the rest of the week. Continue to be productive. Continue to set your goals. Continue to achieve your dreams. And continue to be great. And y'all already know the slogan, baby. We gone. There's a bigger fight going on. There's a much bigger agenda than the streets. And I know sometimes it's hard to see that far in front of us. But we have to look past the illusions, look past the delusions of grandeur, and look at the bigger picture. We need to become better versions of ourselves each and every day. Fight for what you believe in. Because if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. We just getting started, baby. You guys know the slogan now. Hope you all have a great evening. And we gone.